Welcome to the Sunflower Conversations, where we explore the hidden disability sunflower and its role in supporting people with hidden disabilities.
Welcome to the Sunflower Conversations. I am your host, Chantal, and I am joined by Terri Louise Brown. Terri was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which we will probably refer to as MS, as an abbreviation as we go through our chat, 8 years ago, and has since founded the charity Talks with MS, a supportive platform for those with MS to share experiences. As an advocate for accessibility and disability technology, she also runs a consultancy company teaching companies how to achieve greater inclusivity. So, a very busy woman. So, thank you so much for your time, Terri. How are you today?
Not too bad. Thank you for having me.
It's our absolute pleasure. Before we begin, I'd like to give you a visual description of myself, and Terri will do the same. So I am a female. I am in my late 40s. I have got light brown skin. I've got long brown curly hair. I am wearing clear framed glasses and, as ever, bright coloured lipstick.
I am Terri. I am a darker brown female. I have got short black hair with a side parted fringe. I've got quite wide black frame glasses on and a light pink lipstick with a stud in my nose, and I'm wearing a grey polo neck jumper.
So MS, this is what we're talking about. So for my benefit and for the benefit of the listeners, could you please explain what multiple sclerosis is?
Multiple sclerosis is a chronic neurological condition. It's also an autoimmune disease, which means that the body's immune system mistakenly attacks the protective covering of the nerve fibers called myelin. A few facts about MS. MS is more common in women than men, and it can affect individuals at any age. I was 27 when I got diagnosed. And it is most commonly diagnosed between young adults between the ages of 20 and 40. MS can significantly impact an individual's quality of life. However, what many people don't know is that there are actually 4 different types of MS, and hopefully we'll get to talk about that a bit more as we go on.
Yeah, that would be really interesting to hear a bit more about that for sure. Is it genetic?
So they do say it's not genetic. However, I'm also a sibling with MS. So my younger brother Daniel was diagnosed 15 years ago, and same mum, same dad. We've also got paternal cousins, brother and sister, again, same mum, same dad, who also have MS. And I've encountered a lot of people who either have a mum or a sibling or even a dad, or some member of their family with MS. I actually found a woman who it's her sister, her mum, and her mum's sister. So as much as Google says it's not genetic, I feel like we've still got a long way to go with that.
So that's quite interesting. So you're not given any genetic type of form of testing or anything like that to see whether your children would be affected by it? No, nothing. They just don't look into that.
They don't look into it. And I feel like that is also one of my biggest fears because I've got a son and it's like I wonder if, and I know you don't want to bring on illnesses, but it's scary times. And as much as they say it's not, looking in the personal position that I'm in, it kind of is.
Yeah, it's very close to home.
Very.
You've said there's 4 different types, so we can maybe start off with the type of MS that you have and how does it affect you?
So I now have relapsing remitting MS, whereby I can get maybe 4. I think last year I had 4 relapses, and the odd flare up, or I can go through a whole year with none. I'm waiting for that year because it hasn't come just yet. But relapsing remitting MS is basically I don't want to say popular, but that's the more common one that people are diagnosed with. They may have 1 or 2 relapses that kind of match with the symptoms of someone that has MS, and they're normally diagnosed on the back of that.
Does your brother have the same type?
So when he started, he did have relapsing remitting. He now has quote unquote primary MS, and that's partly because his condition has progressed over the years. So he's now non-verbal, he's fed via a feeding tube, and he's bedbound. However, we do put him in his wheelchair, we do put him make him go out in the garden and stuff like that.
So relapsing remitting is one form of diagnosis within multiple sclerosis. You mentioned there were four. What are the other ones?
So there's relapsing remitting, there's primary MS, there's secondary MS. And the final one, for the life of me, it's like the pre-diagnosis stage, and it's not one that's spoke about often. And for the life of me, I cannot remember the name, but I will definitely come back to you with it.
Okay. So how did it start for you? When did you begin to realize that your health was affected and your everyday operations, your body operations were differing a bit?
So my first ever symptom was March 2015, and I had an argument with my partner. And I woke up the next morning normally, and I had pins and needles in the soles of both feet. I didn't think it was strange until it had lasted for near enough half a day. Half a day turned into a month. It turned into 2 months, and I was like, okay, maybe I might need to seek some sort of medical attention. I wasn't necessarily scared of the GP, but I feel like at that point, even prior to MS, I was tired of the GP not necessarily listening, so I kind of avoided it. Anyway, I went to my GP, told her my symptoms. Prior to going to the GP, I'd already done a bit of Googling. Because of my brother's condition and his diagnosis, I was already in the thick of researching multiple sclerosis. However, I just didn't realize my research would have become personal. And I done a bit of research, saw that the symptoms kind of matched a few symptoms of multiple sclerosis and also something called Gideon's and Barry syndrome and a sleepy leg syndrome. And I thought, okay, from research, I already know MS isn't genetic, so that can't be it. However, let's see what the doctor has to say. Went to the doctor. We done a few neurological examinations that she was able to do like face to face, and she referred me to get an MRI. I feel like that was the June. By the July, my right foot had corrected itself, but because my left foot still had the pins and needles, I still wanted to push forward with the MRI. It was Mother's Day, so the following March 2016, had my MRI in the November. They didn't contact me. I thought I was fine, but the pins and needles were still very much there. I knew I was up Doodoo Street, March 2016, the day before Mother's Day, the day after, my body was shutting down. So
you
those
feel it?
Yeah. And it was painful. It was awful because to touch, the only way I could describe it would be hot ants crawling up my body.
Ooh.
And that didn't make any sense, but it was interesting. And by that point, so the day before Mother's Day, I wet myself because I'd already lost the feeling in the lower half of my body. So I wasn't aware of what was happening. I didn't know if I needed to go toilet. I didn't know if I didn't need to go toilet. Apparently I needed to go, and I went. And that in itself was very strange for me. And I think because I had had the MRI the November and hadn't been told anything was wrong, as much as I knew there was something wrong, I was still quite hopeful that, the NHS would have come through for me and wouldn't have led me down this garden path as to not telling me that I was actually diagnosed with something.
So how long did that last for? I mean, from that, having that sort of feeling of the paralysis from the waist
From the
down. I
way
mean, you must have been so scared.
I was petrified. I was literally petrified. But in that moment, because it was Mother's Day and everybody normally comes to my parents' house because, like I said, my brother's bedbound and it's just easier for everybody to congregate here, I was still trying to act normal. So as much as I was in pain, normally I'd be in the kitchen with my aunties. I couldn't. I was doing minimal, but they didn't really say much. I tried to braid my cousin's hair. And that was the biggest task. And again, I couldn't do it because I'd already started to lose feelings in my fingers as well. And it was only till the next day, my mum literally looked at me. I took a day off work, which is something I wasn't doing regularly. And my mum looked at me laying on the sofa and she was like, "You're in pain, aren't you?" And I was like, "I think so." And she's like, "We've got to go to the hospital." I was like, "I don't want to go." And it was a task, I think, because I knew there was something wrong. It was such a task for me to actually agree to go to the hospital and pack an overnight bag. Um, and yeah, that was the Monday, and I got diagnosed the Tuesday.
So did you go with saying, "Look, I've done a load of research anyway, and this is what I think it is"?
No, I went there and I said, "I've left my 7-year-old at home by himself. I need to go now." I wasn't thinking MS research. I don't even think I was thinking. I
Yeah.
was just like, I can't be here. I know there's something wrong. I don't want to be told there's something wrong. It's one thing to do research for somebody else, but then when it becomes, or when it could potentially become your life, in that moment, I didn't want to hear it
Yeah.
because I was also very aware that MS at the moment is incurable. At 27 years old, I didn't want to hear it.
No, no, you didn't want that to be your reality.
No, I just about found peace with my brother's diagnosis and his new normal. Yeah, I wasn't ready for that for myself.
Yeah. So that's quite a fast acceleration from having the pins and needles in your feet.
Yeah, it was near enough a year from first symptom to diagnosis.
You are listening to the Sunflower Conversations with Chantal. To learn more about the sunflower, visit our website. Details are in the show notes. And then what happened, like following on from that? Like, how did your symptoms develop?
So the paralysis lasted for 4.5 months. However, in that time, because I was having active relapses, they gave me a steroid that they didn't know I was allergic to. I didn't know I was allergic to, and it took the use of my left hand. So till this very day, I won't pick up glass with my left hand. I won't pick up a plate with my left hand unless I'm actively looking at the object that I want to hold. I can't just assume my hand's going to know where it needs to go. Um, but outside of that, I'm in pain near enough 24 hours a day, but I feel like I'm used to it now. And yeah, I am back on my feet. I wrote a book called Paralysis to Heels. The heels aren't as high as the heels I used to wear before diagnosis, but I'm just maybe grateful that my mobility is back in a more balanced state, and that didn't come easy.
So presumably you weren't able to work during all of this period.
No, for the first 2 months, I wasn't working. But what had happened is, even though I was contracting, my manager at the time was the one that told me that I could potentially have MS. And that was because her best friend in Australia had it. And she kind of saw similar symptoms when I was in and around the office, from my balance to even, just some of the things that I was saying in regards to how my body was feeling. Um, so she actually kept the job open for me, even though I was a contractor, which was so strange, but I was so grateful for it because it was nice to be able to go back to some sort of normality after such a major change.
And understanding as well,
Yeah,
and
extreme
compassion.
understanding, extreme understanding, empathy, compassion. Um, and again, it was great to be able to go back into a workforce with somebody that actually understood what I was going through, even though not personal, still personal.
And I imagine, like you said, you needed some semblance of normality after having such
Yeah,
a dramatic roller coaster of symptoms and emotions.
mhm, definitely.
You said that you experience pain every day and that you have flare-ups. So I'm assuming during your flare-ups, your pain is at an increased level, is it?
Yeah, it is. And so like times like now where the weather's a bit cold, I almost hibernate, or I have about 3 or 4 layers of clothing on, and that includes when I'm going to sleep because I've also got a weather intolerance. So cold weather, it just heightens my pain. And then the sun in the UK drains me to no end because it's not really real. However, if I'm back home, if I'm in the West Indies, if I'm in Turkey, it's like there's nothing wrong with me. is actually such a difference.
That's really interesting, isn't it?
Is and I love it. That's why I try my hardest to be away as much as humanly possible because it makes such a difference to how my body feels.
Do you hear that from other people who live with MS about the weather conditions? Was that just something that's unique to you?
No, definitely not unique to me. Those especially who have maybe a heat intolerance, when they are in a country where that is like normal climate for it to be warmer than the UK, they definitely appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah, that's a good reason for making sure you're able to save up and get those
Honestly.
holidays in, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's for
definitely.
medical reasons.
Yes.
But so then so during the winter, your activities and the things that you would do would be restricted a bit, would they? Just because of the cold and how that
And
bothers the body.
that's a personal choice because nobody likes to be in pain. And I think over the 8, nearly 9 years, I've realized we're not best friends. Me, cold weather, we don't go together very well. So I do only what I have to. I go out only if I have to. Um, and I don't mind it. And I think my people around me, they've gotten so used to knowing that if it's too cold, I'm not going.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the me choice. And sometimes you have to make choices for yourself, even if it makes you the flaky friend. I don't mind.
So
I'll be
having that understanding from your social circle and your family is crucial, I would imagine, to
definitely,
support in your mental health so that you aren't viewed as the flaky friend or the letdown.
definitely is. And so grateful, so grateful for the village that I have, biological, non-biological. They've really helped me in my MS journey. I always say that, MS is not just about the person diagnosed with it that has it written on paper. Like your allies play a major role in your journey. And that's MS, any disability, your allies play a major role.
That's the purpose of this podcast, is to really create a society of allies.
Mm,
Um, how can somebody know what, have the first inkling unless we are able to kind of listen to conversations with,
exactly.
with you and really help to gain a better and deeper understanding of it. So again, thank you for sharing your time, to talk to us about it. You've created a charity, Talks with MS. I said it at the introduction. Um, can I ask why you created the charity?
Um, so when I got diagnosed, I put my diagnosis on Facebook. And on the back of me putting my diagnosis on Facebook, I was almost inundated with messages from people around my age, maybe a little bit younger, some a bit older, letting me know about the different health challenges that they're facing. And that coupled with the fact that when my brother was diagnosed, there was minimal representation. And that's from a perspective of uh, a man, a young man under the age of 25, and a young Black man. Um, and I know that level of isolation played a part in where he is now. So I just wanted to maybe help rid a little bit of isolation. I didn't want anyone else to go through what I witnessed my brother going through in regards to not having a safe space, not having a community, not having someone else that actually knows what he's going through. That's maybe not a family member that's going to just be, in a sense, have an element of toxic positivity and just say you will be okay, when in hindsight, guys, I've just been diagnosed with an incurable disease. I wanted to create a space of people that actually got it, a space where people could either, compare symptoms or talk about potential medication that they want to go on, or holistic therapies. I wanted to create a space where people realize that there's others that look like them, whether it be age, race, gender, and others that actually want to talk about what's going on with them.
So it's a forum for connection.
It's a big brother stroke big sister platform, now registered charity.
Yeah. And your brother, he was 21 when he was diagnosed, and long prior to that did he start to experience symptoms? I'm just I'm really trying to like visualize how young he was, because I have a 21-year-old
Okay.
son now,
Yeah.
and I can, I can visualize for that and how catastrophic I think if it's okay to say that it would be for a 21-year-old, but presumably it started even younger for him.
Yeah, so he was 20. So his first symptom and only symptom as to why he even got diagnosed was optic neuritis. And we didn't realize optic neuritis, it's in layman's terms, you could partially lose your sight. And it could be in either eye or it could be in both eyes. And the level of sight loss, nobody can predetermine it. And you also can't determine or estimate when it comes back, or if it comes back, or in what capacity your sight comes back. So with Daniel, it seemed as though no glasses were strong enough for him. And for some strange reason, because it's not something that they was doing back then, the optician actually looked at the back of his retina. And on looking at the back of his retina, noticed some shading. And I
Right.
think shading kind of coincided with optic neuritis, but they sent him over to Moorfields, and obviously further testing was done, and that's where he was diagnosed.
So Moorfields is a world-renowned eye hospital in London.
Yes, yes,
They can pick up a lot through the eyes, can't
they
they?
can. They really can. They really can.
So and then did he have any, you see, he started off with relapse and remitting. Did he
Yeah,
have any periods when before he became bedbound that he was doing better than he was before?
yeah. So in hindsight, him becoming bedbound was not necessarily because of the disease.
Right.
And again, me starting Talks to MS is so nobody went through the isolated period that he went through. Him having the optic neuritis, he was still to a point going to university. He was still going to work. He still had his girlfriend. He was still, one of the lads going raving and so on and so forth. However, when he did get diagnosed, there was a period where they were speaking about the medication, and they weren't very helpful. So my dad's a pastor, my mum's first lady, and my brother decided to focus a bit more on his faith. And I remember him going to the doctor, and the doctor literally laid out 3 medications and said, sign, choose one, sign for it, which is normal. However, the delivery for a young black man that has no real idea what this disease is, it was confusing. And in that moment, Dan basically turned around and said, you know what, I'm going to pray on it. Um, and I kind of feel like the specialist just kind of wrote him off from there. However, it went from Daniel maybe being in bed for one day to him being in bed for the whole week. And I remember my mum used to be like, Dan, come on, just get up. Because remember, his mobility wasn't affected at all. So he was still able to do that. And then from 1 week to 2 weeks, and he became very stubborn.
So sorry, can I just clear this in my mind? So he didn't take the medication, or he did?
He didn't.
He
He
didn't.
didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, he has never had any MS medication till this very day. Disease modifying drug, he hasn't had any of them. So yeah, he just had longer spouts of being in the bed. And the thing with multiple sclerosis, it's it affects your muscles, and it's almost like if you decide to stop using them over a period of time, it will say, okay, no problem. If you don't want to use them, I'll take away your ability to use them. So it's no longer a choice. And in hindsight, that's what happened.
Do you mind if I ask you a personal question? Do you take medication?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
So I got diagnosed in the March. So, okay, backstory. When I had my MRI, I've said it before, they didn't tell me. So the hospital that was supposed to let me know whether they found um, anything strange, if anything caught their attention, if there was any possibility of anything, they didn't let me know. So I actually got diagnosed in a completely separate hospital, and that was 5 months later. And the hospital that actually diagnosed me, it took them 4 hours to get my MRI results from the initial hospital. So there was already so many mess ups that I got diagnosed in March. And when the man was at my hospital bed, he said he's not going to refer me to a hospital. He's going to refer me directly to a specialist at the best hospital. And he did. And I was fortunate enough to start my medication within 2 months. And normally it takes people 6 months to a year after diagnosis to even have a meeting with their specialist, let alone start a medication so quickly. So yes, I am on medication. I'm on a drug called Tysabri. I celebrated 100 rounds of medication in August. People may think it's strange that I say celebrated. Absolutely. I don't celebrate having the disease. I don't celebrate taking medicinal drugs. What I do, however, celebrate is the process from being diagnosed to where I am today. And I know I couldn't have done that by myself. I
Yeah.
know that drug has helped me, whether it be to, give my body a rest while it repairs certain parts, or to kind of make me feel a bit human, even if it's only for 24 hours. So yeah, I do. I do take Tysabri. I do take a disease modifying treatment.
You are listening to the Sunflower Conversations. Remember to hit subscribe. Do you also use methods which we hear a lot about, pacing and spoons? Do you try to manage your fatigue and pain levels by making sure you take rest breaks?
I think the sensible answer would be yes, but that would be a lie. I don't.
Anybody listening to this who knows you would be thinking, what's she going to say
Spoons. She doesn't sleep. I messaged her at 5 o'clock and she replied, and they'll be absolutely right. I am a bit of a workhorse, and I feel like because I know the impact I'm trying to create, sometimes I don't pause when I'm supposed to pause. However, because I do know what it now feels like to involuntarily be paused, when I'm at that point, I kind of take a minute.
Yeah,
Hence,
yeah,
over the Christmas period, I had to take a couple of days.
yeah. You'll bring yourself back down from the precipice
Yeah,
or whatever the word is.
yeah. When I'm at that peak, kind of all right, tell rein it back in. But
Yeah,
really, no, I don't, and that's because some days I might not do anything, and then some days I may be a complete workhorse.
yeah. Okay, right. Well, we've spoken about why you created the charity, and you spoke about your brother being a young black man and not having anybody to sort of identify with, to travel down the journey with, and how isolating that was. Um, in May I ask you, what do you think, like in your experience, do you think attitudes towards disability differ in BAME communities, and why do you think that is?
100%. I think culturally, disabilities, illnesses, it's not always accepted. And I also feel like culturally, because of maybe the different barriers that we've faced as a BAME community, we're not always in a rush to go to seek help from medical professionals. Do I think that's right? Absolutely not. But I have been there. And I feel like that's why I always say I advocate for myself. I advocate for the voiceless, who is my brother, as he's nonverbal. And I advocate for those who are tired of not being heard, tired of almost being drowned out and making them seem as though what they're saying is nonsense when in hindsight we're the ones going through it. So culturally, 100%, I do feel like there are some disparities that need to be addressed and that need to be changed.
And that's from within the community. And then externally, there is a conscious or unconscious
Mm,
bias that Black women are stronger and can take more pain and don't, and I think that would also apply to men, that
yeah,
we're stronger, so
yeah.
you don't get the same level of maybe empathy.
Empathy, care. And I feel like that could come from the fact that we've just gotten on with things. So because that's what they see, then it's like, oh well, it's all right. We don't have to do too much because they're just going to get on. They're just going to deal. I say it to my friends all the time, even though it's a joke. I'm not strong. I'm not.
Mm.
I did not want to be on the list of God's strongest soldiers for 2025 and beyond because I'm tired. I'm actually tired. I might smile about it, but I'm so tired.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The pain is real. Um, and
Definitely.
so, and do you see anything changing maybe from like our generation, although I think you're younger than I am, and younger, do you see those attitudes from within the community changing at all and being a bit more open to sharing illnesses and, like symptoms, etc., to hopefully lead to a faster diagnosis and support?
Um, I feel like if it does, it's because it's taught, if that makes sense. So for me, if there's anything wrong with my son, you tell me. I need to know. Just so, if you need to go to the doctors, then we go to the doctors. I'm letting him know that it's okay to go to the doctors. Like you actually might need their help. And if you still don't feel that you're getting the help that you need or deserve, you need to speak up. Because ultimately it's important. I think even with the foods, it's causing so many different illnesses, and we actually need to speak up. It's no longer just like, oh, I'll get on with it, or oh, this person had the similar symptoms to me, so I must have that as well. And then you self-diagnose. No, we actually need to, be teaching our younger generation because ultimately, I know me, I haven't necessarily seen it from my parents where they're actively going to the doctors. So I know I had to teach myself that. So hence why I now have to teach my son. So I feel like if the change is going to come, it's going to have to be taught.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is the only way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, it's we kind of do follow in the footsteps of our family,
Yeah.
the people, our older generation, and sort of follow what they've done. So, yeah, that's good. And then, as a Black woman with a disability, what are some of the everyday barriers that you encounter or have encountered?
Um, I've been told that I'm not disabled enough to class myself as disabled.
Gosh, Jesus.
I said,
Mhm.
oh, that's interesting. And I put a post on Instagram and it was strange to me because it was from somebody that also has MS. But I think because of where I am on my journey, I was able to look at it from a perspective of this person has most probably been diagnosed for a shorter period than I have, and her MS has maybe progressed a bit more, even though she doesn't know where I started,
Hmm.
and she's coming to me from a place of hurt. So I
Mm.
put it, and I said, no problem, because at the end of the day, how do you measure disability?
I think it's a very good. I think it's so such a good point because I do see that sometimes where people can be like comparing symptoms. Well, you're not as bad as me, so you don't shouldn't really have a voice in this arena, and
Mm,
that's really reductive, and
yeah.
it's not going to help anybody anywhere.
No, it's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help you. By you telling me that, it's not going to change your situation. I don't know if it's going to give you a kick because you was a bit not nice to somebody. But ultimately, me letting people know, listen, I'm a woman, I'm a Black woman, I'm a mother, and I am disabled. It's letting you know that speak out. Like you don't have to hide it. Don't look at me and think, oh, she looks okay. No, I am actually a disabled woman. Um, and I'm no longer embarrassed of it. But in terms of another daily thing, I've been accosted because I used a blue badge babe before, even though the blue badge has my face on it. Because I've got, as much as yes, I am walking, I have pain 24 hours a day. I'm on medication for the pain in my left leg. Because as much as yes, it may work to a point, I do still have pins and needles nearly 9 years on.
Yeah, I don't have that, you know. I don't need to park right in front of the store or whatever. I don't
Right.
have that. So, and and that's how it should be. You can't see what's going on inside your
No,
leg, your
I
foot.
can't. And it was somebody that actually was in a blue badge, was in a blue badge bay. And in my head, I was thinking, you've already got a bay. So what's the problem with me parking in one? it made absolutely no sense. And I'm the kind of person, if I saw that there wasn't enough bays in, this person, because they were an older couple, I would have parked somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm happy to just drag my leg. I'm so used to this pain, and it's so strange, but I've become so used to this pain. Like, if I have to park somewhere else, I have to park somewhere else. However, if there's a bay there and I'm able to put the blue badge that has my face on it there, I will use it.
Yeah. Speaking to another mum,
Yeah.
black woman, she's got young children. She has lupus and lots of other serious health conditions, including
Wow.
a very serious issue with her heart. And her youngest daughter is autistic.
Okay.
And she's been abused when parking in those parking bays. And there's multiple reasons why she has that, and I
Mm.
just don't know why. I don't know how we can try to stop it, and how to broaden people's perceptions of what they think is disability beyond themselves and what they're
Mm.
experiencing. It's a real challenge. It really is, because that
Yeah.
having that interaction like that could very easily put you or her or anybody else off actually going out
Yeah.
and and accessing daily things, whatever that might be. Doing your shopping is something you have to do.
Yeah. Because you're,
Um,
as to whether someone could potentially just come up to you and, create a whole scene.
yeah.
Me, I literally smile through everything. So I just let them go on with their day. Let them carry on. And then I showed them the blue badge with my picture. And it was I
Not
don't,
apology.
absolutely not.
Oh, crikey.
They
Yeah.
watched you go inside. Okay. Wow. Where do we go from here?
There's another man, actually, another gentleman, who I interviewed on the podcast,
Yeah.
and he has PTSD, and he has a prosthetic leg from a
Okay.
severe injury that he was involved in, and so he's basically got one leg, and so
Mhm.
he has a parking thingy, and he said the amount of glares and stares and that he gets when he parks, but they can't see, because if he's got his trousers on, you can't see he's on one leg.
And who knows if he's even comfortable to let strangers know that
Exactly.
this is my reason. Why should I even have to explain it to you?
Mm.
Don't get me wrong. I do know there are people that use other people's blue badges. I get that. However, what you're not going to do is try to do a citizen's arrest for something that belongs to me. You're
As well as running Talks with MS, you are a successful businesswoman and entrepreneur
not.
and mother and everything else.
Yeah.
So, in your view, how does the Hidden Disability Sunflower support disabled people in accessing and maintaining work and a career?
I feel like there's two parts to that.
Okay.
With the lanyards in work, okay, so I believe it gives managers that kind of incentive to maybe say, okay, maybe we need to have a conversation. For example, somebody could be wearing the lanyard but hasn't necessarily disclosed that they have a disability of sort. And if the manager is very aware of the disability sunflower lanyard and what you guys do, then it could be okay, cool. Now I've seen it as a manager, and also from a HR perspective, we need to have a conversation, and we need to maybe see if there's any reasonable adjustments that need to be conducted, and how we can maybe put a plan together to kind of better your day in the workforce, and see how we can retain you as a disabled person, because I feel like retention is so important for people with disabilities in the workforce.
Absolutely. If your employer is looking after you, I mean, this is in any scenario anyway, but even more if I think disabled employees, if they are given the satisfactory accommodations and workplace adjustments, and feel that they're in a safe space where they can be their true authentic selves, the
Mhm.
retention is higher. You
Yeah,
are going
definitely,
to stay, aren't you? Because you're,
definitely.
you're you're able to perform your job to a much more satisfactory
Yeah,
level for yourself as the individual, but also for your employer. So your employer is going to get the best from you.
yeah,
You're going to have a sense of self-worth and, you
Yeah.
know, and promotion opportunities, etc., will be more easy to come by if you're actually able to present your whole self.
And also feeling seen, because I feel like that's also very, very important. I know, luckily, obviously, when I went back to work, I had that manager, but I've been in a workforce where um, the manager, he thought he was really funny. He really wasn't. And he would put notes on people's phone. And on my phone, he actually put sick note.
Oh no.
Okay. Okay. First of all, he's silly guy. Silly, silly, silly guy, because this
Silly
isn't
boy.
funny. And this was a grown man.
Mm,
Like at that point, well in his 40s, if not 50s. Like, this isn't comical.
no.
This is strange. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's people.
But you see, back then, if that company had been members of the Hidden Disability Sunflower,
Yeah.
all of the staff would have had access to our training videos and obviously the podcasts and the Invisible Disabilities Index and all of these things that we provide.
Mhm.
So that's the kind of actually a very good example of why it's important
Needed.
that
Yeah.
that colleagues say to their companies, look, why don't you join this? Because it will benefit everyone. Because like you didn't become diagnosed until you were 27. Just because you don't have a disability today or illness, it doesn't mean that further down the line that this might not impact you.
I thought I was healthy. Like I thought I was fine up until and it's just so strange. I went to sleep fine. I remember we had a bit of a fiery argument and I was fine. I went to sleep, I woke up, we was gonna go calf breakfast, and I was like, what is this? Like, why do I still have pins and needles? It's been longer than 20 seconds. Why hasn't it gone yet? So yeah, like just yeah, you never know what tomorrow can bring. So be mindful.
Yes.
So 100% those training sessions, the resources that the Disability Sunflower Lanyard provides and produce, and these podcasts, and just genuine, continuous disability awareness is so important because you just never know what your tomorrow is.
Are there any other circumstances other than, you know, we're talking about work, but are there any circumstances in which you've worn the sunflower and have had a positive experience?
Oh God, yeah. I went to Ireland and I had the lanyard on. I don't normally do the additional
The
uh
assistance?
yeah, I don't normally do the assistant travel, but I had the lanyard on and he just opened the gate for me. He said, yeah, go to that queue. And I was like, thank you. I was so happy. And the person I was with, they were able to come along as well. So it was nice to be in a different country and for the lanyard to be known. And I think I put a post up on LinkedIn with the guy's name and everything because it was just so nice. Like the way it was just so easy. I didn't
Yeah.
have to think or overthink. Whereas I remember I did go to New York that same year. I wore the lanyard and it was absolute hell. Like I was actually in tears in the airport because I was like, why am I fighting so hard for a disability, for a condition that I didn't ask for?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they literally, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible.
It actually can be also quite a scary experience when you're in another country, right? You know, you're not on your home territory, and to have a really negative experience and not be supported. It's not a place where anybody wants to be, especially after coming off a long flight
Yeah.
and having, you know, living with pain every day. So,
And with that flight, I actually did do the assistive travel. So that made it even worse. Because I was like,
mm,
I've already gone through the checks. But what it was, because all of the people in front of me were in a wheelchair, it was just like, well, you're walking through. So why do you need to be here for? And I was just like,
yeah.
wow.
I mean, that's so small-minded. It's so
Yeah.
small-minded, and I think that's one of the things that people don't know is that you can book assistance and
Mhm.
not have to have the wheelchair, because I've seen
Right.
some comments of people saying, well, I don't need a wheelchair. Why are they I don't want to go in a wheelchair. But
Yeah.
we had a really great chat with Michael Connolly from Skywise, who's
Okay.
laid it all out about how you can travel, yeah, and have your sort of your needs kind of looked after and catered for. So
Mhm.
if anyone's listening to that and they're thinking of booking a flight somewhere, do have a listen to that podcast first because it's really informative. I learned a lot from it.
Yeah. I booked mine for the extra leg room. not because I needed the wheelchair, but that leg room on an 8-hour flight, it was necessary.
Yeah, yeah. And so we're going to sort of wrap up shortly, but I wanted to ask, what services do Talks with MS provide and how can people access them?
So you can access our services via our social media. All of them is at Talks with MS or via our website where we keep up to date with all our events, whether it be online or in person. And that is www.talkswithms.co.uk. We provide resources from webinars where the topics could be about life. So we had one recently about partners with MS because, again, it's important. They're on this journey with us. Or we do get medical professionals in to speak about different things that are happening in and around the medical MS community. We do in-person events, and they can differ from a football match where the bibs would have different MS symptoms or different disease-modifying drug names on them, or we can have an in-person event where we have researchers come in. Again, we had our first research event May of last year, or we have community events where we could potentially have like a lived experience panel, and we make sure we get a really good sponsor in that could either provide drinks for us, whether it's mocktails or cocktails and pineapples, or for our launch, we had Wingstop provide the food for us. And we have goodie bags. And again, we partner with some really good companies that just want to help our community grow, that really just want to, provide as much impact as humanly possible. And yeah, so we've got the webinars, the in-person events. We do one-to-one sessions. And for this year of 2025, we'll also be rolling out mental health first aid courses. And I believe that was so important and is so important for people with disabilities, for themselves, number one, and also when they're dealing with others. Because, we need to sometimes maybe change the way we talk, and you won't know unless you know. So learned behavior is what I'm focusing on for 2025.
Brilliant. That's excellent. I mean, it's like a wraparound community service,
Yes.
in a sense, it sounds
100%.
to me. And having been to your events in the past, I can definitely testify to the fact that everyone who comes, even though you don't know each other, it's a very open and space, and people feel that they can connect with one another, and you do your best there to make everybody feel valued with the nice treats and what have you
Yeah.
that you work really hard to provide for everybody who comes along. And you've got a really nice network of volunteers as well. So for many different reasons, check out Talks with MS. We'll put their details in our show notes as well, so that you can take a look and access any of the activities, events and services that Terri and the team put on. So thank you so much for your time today, Terri, and really looking forward to watching your journey with the charity, develop, as the year rumbles on. Another good year for you guys.
Hope so. Fingers crossed.
If you are interested in any of the advice discussed in this podcast, please follow up with your GP or healthcare practitioner. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it, leave a rating and review to help raise awareness of non-visible disabilities and the Hidden Disability Sunflower. You can also follow and subscribe to the Sunflower Conversations podcast.
If you'd like to share your sunflower story or conversation, please email conversations@hiddendisabilitiesstore.com. Find out more about us or listen to this recording again by checking out our insights page at hiddendisabilitiesstore.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Please help, have patience, and show kindness to others, and join us again soon. Making the invisible visible with the Hidden Disability Sunflower.